Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another delicious episode of Darie's Dish. And I have a fabulous guest on today who's actually been on our show, I think probably more than once. I'm not sure. Kim, welcome to the show. This is Kim Banick from Salem, Oregon.
Hello, good morning. Yes, I've actually once before. It was right after the competition, right after the World Food Championships.
Oh, my God. Oh, and speaking of World Food Championships, this is, Kim is actually the seafood champ. And she wore my lipstick at the, that's
I
what
did. That was winning lipstick. That was winning lipstick.
that was. Anyway, you guys, since she is the seafood champ, you know what we're going to talk about. We're not going to be talking about burgers in this segment. So you guys get out your pen and pad and a piece of paper or open up your notepad on your phone. We're going to talk about food and her recipe in just a minute. And actually, this is the recipe that she served as the structured dish at the World Food Championships 2017. So she's going to give us her version that won, helped her win that category of Oysters Rockefeller. So first off, though, Kim, real quick, tell everyone how you got started and a little bit about your website and blog, The Price of Cooking.
Oh, yeah. So, actually, kind of growing up, I grew up in a food family. I mean, my family owned a restaurant. My mom taught us how to do chocolates and wedding cakes and all that fun stuff. And then my mom and I even did competitions together where we would do our confectioners, our sugar candies and stuff like that. So my very first contest that I actually entered was back when I was 25. And so I just found this desire because that was kind of like my food sport back then. It's like I didn't necessarily do other sports, but being in the kitchen and cooking and even baking was something that I really enjoyed doing. So later on, as my kids got older and I started having a little bit more free time, I decided to start looking back into some of the contests. And then I decided to start a website called The Price of Cooking. And I just thought I wanted to someplace to be able to share about all the different contests that are going on out there. And even though there are websites that actually tell you what the current contests are, this was more about the recipes that I'm creating for the contest. How did they do? Some of them may not be your everyday recipe because sometimes, like even the one I'm sharing today, can be.
That's okay. I have my grand doggies here too, so barking is fine.
I know, so it's just like, so I try to keep the website having a little bit of everything. Some home cooked, recipes that you can do just for your family, but then also you're going to see recipes on there that are competition award-winning recipes like the one that we're going to talk about today.
Yes, and cooking contests are really kind of a big deal now. You can actually make quite a bit of money doing it. Now, I've wanted to get into it this last year, but I just haven't been able, I don't know, I guess I'm a bit overwhelmed with it because when I go in and look at it, I'm like, I don't know. And then like where I live, there's a lot of products that you have to have the product that has to be included in the contest, right? So there's rules and regs to every one of them, but if you guys like cooking, check out Kim's site, thepriceofcooking.com, and read her story and how she got started. Maybe that'll kind of spur you on or give you a little incentive like I need. Well, I really wanted to start competition cooking this year, but financially it just didn't come into the, it's not cheap to do competition cooking.
No, I mean, we all know. Even practicing, even creating the recipes. There's on average, I probably have, in fact, this last month, I put 5 new recipes into contests. Well, that means I was going out to the store, I was purchasing all these ingredients, maybe I had to do it again and again, and so I try to feed the family most of the time, or neighbors. I believe my neighbors love me when they see me coming.
Exactly.
I'm like, oh, what did you make?
I'm kind of the same way. I always cook, and I had 4 sons. I raised 4 sons, so it's real hard for me to cook just for 2 people now. For my mom and myself, it's like, oh well, I cook enough for my aunts and uncles and whoever else shows up. It's just one of those things that that we do, I think, as moms too. So let's talk a little bit about, everybody get ready. We're going to go into the Oysters Rockefeller that Kim created for the structured dish of the World Food Championship. So first off, let's get started with, some people probably don't like oysters. They're probably already hung up. But, you know, just hang tight here because this is actually a cooked oyster dish. So some people.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so some people that might not like raw oysters, and I've had raw oysters. I'm not real crazy about them, but I did have one of those at the World Food Championships, one of those from what's the name of this?
The salt oysters that we were required to
so
use.
Good. Yeah,
they were
really
baby, tiny, fresh oysters that had like no seafood taste. You know, they just had that fresh, briny, saltwater taste. Oh, they were perfect.
And that was
small too.
And that was let's talk about the oysters that you used first. It was just a regular.
It was a local. Well, they were local Alabama seafood. You know, it's from that area. We were down in Orange Beach, Alabama. They did provide us with these salt oysters. We were required to use them. What's really interesting is before the competition, I'm here in Oregon. I live so close to the coast that we would go over, and my husband would drive about an hour and a half, and he would go over and get fresh oysters and then come home, and then we would practice. And one of the things that we were wanting to do was to save time, as we were wanting to buy fresh shucked oysters. And so we were, you know, because it takes time, and, you know, and when you're in a competition and you've got an hour to get your dish done, opening oysters on site is, you know, it can take your time out.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
So we were thinking, we're gonna buy these oysters from local down there, and we're gonna ask them to shuck them, but give us the shells back. Nope.
Right.
We got there and we got told we were gonna have the salt oysters, and they are not shucked, and we can't pre-shuck them. We had to do them on site. But what's more funny is that we kept buying pre-shucked oysters, and my husband Mark is like, I don't know if I can do these fast enough. And so he's talking to other people, and they're like, well, how do you open an oyster? You know how he learned how to quickly open an oyster?
How?
YouTube.
That's right.
YouTube.
You can learn anything on YouTube. Now that was that Murder Point Oyster Company that supplied those oysters?
I don't know if it was Murder Point. I'd been out to Murder Point before, which they, again, have these harvested beautiful oysters that we got to eat fresh. And, you know, again, that oyster shooter with that fresh oyster is not for everybody. But, again, when it's so fresh like that, it's different. Really,
they're definitely very different. So the first thing so let's go through the ingredients. Not real quickly, let's go through each ingredient of what's going to be in this recipe, and then we'll get started on the process.
Okay, so one of the things this is called Parmesan Garlic Oysters Rockefeller. Everybody had to do the first structured build Oysters Rockefeller. One of the things that I wanted to do was to try to stay pretty close to what an Oyster Rockefeller that you would recognize if you went somewhere. One of the things I've learned in the past is you got to be really careful about how far out of the box you go when you're creating recipes for the World Food Championship. You don't necessarily have to create something that's so crazy that the judges are going to look at it and go, well, is this Oysters Rockefeller? So that was our goal, was to really kind of stay with the traditional. So one of the things, and so also too, I did have a sponsor, Saucy Mama, and so I tried to use one of her products as well. So we had 12 oysters. We wanted to make sure that we were doing a double batch, even though only 6 needed to go in. We wanted to take the best 6, so we had 12 oysters. So the recipe starts with 12 oysters that are shucked, saving the bottom. We also did fresh unsalted butter with the Saucy Mama garlic parmesan marinade. We mixed those two together, and that was the bottom sauce that went on the bottom shell. So we took the oyster out. We put the shell down, And then we put a little teaspoon of that melted butter and the Saucy Mama Parmesan garlic marinade that we had put together. That was at the bottom. So then the oyster went back on top of that. So now you've got this bed of flavor that the bottom of the oyster is actually going to sit and cook in as well. For the top, we actually made a béarnaise sauce. Just basically a white sauce with cheese in it. And I used a very mild Havarti cheese. Not very much Havarti either. And some Parmesan. So we had grated Parmesan in there as well. So whole milk. So you've got your butter. You've got your flour. You're going to make, you're making your basic roux. You're going to, we also infused the butter with lots of garlic. So again, more flavor, layers of flavor.
Right.
So, a lot of times when you're making a white sauce, a lot of recipes will call for the milk to be warmed. Well, that's where we sauteed up the garlic, added the butter or the milk to it, and now we've got our warmed milk for our white sauce. One of the other things that we did is we put in a lot of fresh spinach so there's a lot of fresh spinach in a lot of Oysters Rockefeller recipes. I didn't want to over green the whole, because it can get really green looking if you look at some recipes online. And it's just like, okay, I didn't want mine quite that green looking, but we also put fresh parsley in there as well. And
that's
green
so pretty,
onions.
for color.
Yeah, so for color, for flavor, that freshness, that grassy flavor. I hate to say grassy flavor, but parsley does bring a really good flavor to it. So you've got fresh spinach and parsley and chopped green onions. That also gets stirred into the béarnaise sauce. So now you've got your nice, creamy, cheesy, garlicky sauce, and we put a spoonful of that over the top of each oyster. Then we'd also had prepared some fresh breadcrumbs. So here we're at the competition. We actually dried out our bread slices right there. And then we blended them up. We sauteed them in a pan with more butter and more garlic. So every layer had garlic.
I season every layer when I'm cooking too. A lot of people don't understand. If you'll salt and pepper or season as you go throughout the process of even like sauteing your mirepoix or whatever it is, every layer needs to be seasoned, right? And then you don't get to the end and you go, then you adjust seasonings. It's real hard to adjust seasonings at the end of any dish. So absolutely.
And it just doesn't seem to taste the same if you haven't, if you haven't seasoned your vegetables or if you haven't seasoned, the beginning of that saute versus the end. It just doesn't taste quite the same because I think, especially when you're sauteing vegetables and they're sweating out and they're getting soft and tender and that salt in there really does make a difference.
So they're going to, if they want to do this recipe, they're going to start with a dozen oysters or however many they want to make. And they're going to put them on a sheet pan.
So we used the oyster bed tray. The oyster bed, La Petite tray, was a required tray for us to use also at the World Food Championship. It is a company that was a sponsor of the World Food Championship, and so it made a beautiful presentation.
You cooked it right in there then. You cooked it right in that tray. Okay.
You know what? We could have. And some people did. But this is my thought. If I turn this tray in, and there's 6 oysters in here, and the whole presentation tray is the whole tray is the presentation part.
Right.
Now, I've got 5 judges that need to get an oyster. I want them to be able to have that perfect bite, but to scoop it out of the tray, are they going to miss something? So what we did do is we put the oyster shells on the tray.
Right.
So every oyster was baked in its shell. That way the judge could pick the oyster up and put it in front of them. So then they got, because remember we had that sauce on the bottom? That buttery Parmesan garlic marinade sauce is on the bottom. We didn't want to lose that, as the judges were being served that. They could have it in front of them. They could take the bite. But
So,
go ahead.
so you want to bake them in the shell, then basically like a sheet pan. You're going to put your raw oysters there. They're already shucked, hopefully. If not, you shuck them, and I'm not even sure about oysters if you wash them out or rinse them out or how they do that. But so
a lot of times you don't want to rinse your oysters because they do have. I mean, we did take the oysters out of the shell. We made sure that the shell was free of any pieces. We didn't want to judge getting any, because when you're cleaning those oyster shells or popping them open, you could get a piece every now and then. So we did make sure that the shells were all clean. Now, if you don't have an oyster bed tray to put them in, there's multiple ways to cook them on your baking sheet. If they don't stand up straight enough, you can create beds of crinkled up tin foil. And that that you can sit them in there. You can also use rock salt, which can become part of your presentation tray. So you've got that coarse rock salt, and you put the oysters in there, and that holds them up in place. And then once you take them out of the oven, it's kind of cool. You can just put a bunch of lemons and maybe some more fresh parsley around the tray, and everything is ready to go. So,
now, do you have a link anywhere online to this recipe? I was actually trying to find it, but I was having some issues getting onto your website right now, so I didn't know if you had this, if they wanted to go and actually get the actual ingredients, the amount. In
fact, let me look at my home page real quick. But if you do a search for Oysters Rockefeller in my search bar, it will come up. I put it up there in February. The whole recipe, the whole story is up there. And, it's going to be right now.
I know. I was trying to find that on your site, and for some reason, I was just having a technical issue. I was like, nothing is going through, because I know somebody's going to want to make these. They're going to want to know how much butter, how much, where to get the Saucy Mama. If they can't access the Saucy Mama garlic sauce,
Parmesan made, they could probably use another heavy Parmesan garlic salad dressing. So like maybe, Paul Newman's, I think, or some of those other ones where you shake them up and you've got that nice briny. And I think a lot of it's because it's got some vinegar, and that flavor in there went to the marinade and the dressing goes really well with the butter at the bottom of the oyster.
Yes, I'm looking at your beautiful dish online now. So if you guys check it out at TryThisDish.com if you want to get exact specifications for this recipe. And I might actually, when I start sharing these on Facebook and stuff with the actual recording, I might actually put the ingredients in the post. That's what I was thinking about doing. So that's an idea. So you're going to put them on the tray. They're going into the sauce is going to be beneath the oyster on the top of the shell, then the oyster. Okay. Then you're going to make your béarnaise.
And you can the best thing is actually if you do all the parts separately. Yeah. So make your marinade that's going to go on the bottom. You're going to make your Mornay sauce, and believe it or not, you can make it ahead of time.
Okay.
The Mornay, and you can put it.
I thought you said béarnaise. I couldn't hear.
No, it's a Mornay.
Okay. Gotcha. All right.
And you can make that sauce ahead. I mean, you make the whole entire cheese sauce. You put the spinach and the parsley and the green onions into that. You can refrigerate it, make it the day before. Just you want to warm it back up again so you can spoon it and put like a good teaspoon or two on top of the oysters. Basically, you want to cover the oyster with the cheese sauce. And then you're going to top it with your breadcrumbs. And you can't forget the fried capers. If you see the photo, there's fried capers on the top. And if you've never fried capers, you need to do this.
I love capers.
They become so crispy and crunchy on the top. They just make the perfect little briny bite. And it's amazing with the flavor that it adds to it.
Yeah, this recipe does have quite a few ingredients, which is why we did not list them all out, you guys. So head to TryThisCooking.com, go up in the search bar, and just type in oyster, and it'll be the top one that comes up, and it has a little bit about that competition, and have some pictures of you with your big old check of $10,000.
I know, and don't forget, I won the $3,000 check too.
Oh, that's
my
right.
wild card.
What recipe was that?
It was my overall score. I happened to I bought into, if you will say, the wild card, elite wild card category. And what that was is whoever had the top scores won $3,000. The next one won $2,000, and then $1,000. And so, I took first place in that overall scores in that category.
Well, are you going to come back this year in seafood?
I am. I'm already registered in seafood. Yep.
And it's already closed out.
Yeah. In fact, the one of the benefits of being a champ is you receive 5 years of golden tickets.
Oh, wow.
So yeah. So my goal is to go back and, of course, defend my title and head back to Bentonville, Arkansas for that 100,000.
Oh, I know. I hope so.
Yeah.
It was so much fun this year at the final table. And I will be there front and center, hopefully at the World Food Championship. I already got my condo lined up and everything. Looking forward to it. And I guess I would ask you, what are you going to do?
Well, that's it for this week's episode of Darie's Dish. Make sure to tune in next week for another exciting and tasty food adventure.
Challenge butter.
Please email your recipes to me at TryThisDishRadio@gmail.com. And follow us on Facebook,
of course.
Try This Dish Radio,
Oh my goodness.
and Twitter at Try This Dish Show. Thanks once again for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
I'm happy.
I know. You know, we actually, for the 4th of July yesterday, we actually grilled, I taught my son how to grill crab legs, and they were fabulous. Most people don't know you can grill crab legs.
Oh, the flavor, I bet it knows was so good. Did you dip them in butter?
Of course, I was there with the butter. And my son actually made a garlic butter on the stove top, and it was delicious. And I'm thinking about running over to the store and getting some more of those today. But thank you, Kim, for coming on. Tell everybody where they can find you on social media, and we'll close this segment out.
Absolutely. Well, again, all my social media on Twitter, on Instagram, it's all The Price of Cooking. So just remember, The Price of Cooking. I do have a Facebook page on there. If you are interested in doing a food sport, look up on Facebook, Food Sport Strategies with Kim Banick. Come join the group. You'll get to learn a lot of all the inside stuff. So just come join our group.
Perfect. I actually did see your group, and I was going to request to join it, and then I thought, well, I don't even.
You can join.
I'm not doing much food sport right now, but I guess I do food sport. I report on food sport.
Absolutely. And you know what? Just the tips and the conversations are amazing. So yeah, come join us.
I think I'll do that. You guys, thank you for tuning in. Stay tuned for next week's episode. I'm not sure who. I've got a couple people lined up. I'm not going to give it away just quite yet. Email me at TryThisDishRadio@gmail.com if you'd like to come on and share your recipe, or if you want me just to share it during Try This Dish Radio, I'll be glad to do that. Anyway, everybody have a delicious day. Kim, thank you so much, and we will see you at the World Food Championships.
You're welcome.
Well, that's it for this week's episode of Darie's Dish. Make sure and tune in next week for another exciting and tasty food adventure. Please email your recipes to me at TryThisDishRadio@gmail.com, and follow us on Facebook at Try This Dish Radio and Twitter at Try This Dish Show. Thanks once again for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.